Commander Zethka stared at the display screen in front of him. His four eyes could not believe what they were seeing. The energy readings made no sense at all. Something massive had just dropped out of hyperspace near the edge of the Kepler 442 system, but there was no clearance code. No identification signal. Nothing. The Altarian officer had been running the Galactic Trade Consortium monitoring station for 12 cycles. He had seen every type of ship that existed in known space. Trade vessels, passenger liners, military escorts, even the great dreadnoughts of the core worlds. But this thing on his sensors was different. It was bigger than anything in the database. "Sir, the computer is having trouble processing the size readings," said Lieutenant Vexna from her station. Her voice carried the nervous tremor that came when training met reality. "The mass calculations keep changing. Either our sensors are broken, or that ship is larger than a core world battle station." Zethka walked over to her console. His scaled hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The numbers did not change. Length approximately 8 kilometers. Width 3 kilometers. Height 2 kilometers. The energy signature was off the charts. This was not just a ship. This was a floating city with weapons. "Run a full scan," he ordered. "I want to know everything about that vessel. Check the registry database. Check the military files. Check everything we have." The station's computers worked for several minutes. When the results came back, they made the situation even more confusing. The ship's design showed characteristics of human engineering, but that was impossible. Humans were restricted by the Treaty of Proxima. They could build small ships, fighters, frigates, nothing larger than a destroyer, and definitely not something like this monster. "Sir, I'm getting something else," Vexna reported. Her voice was quieter now. "The ship is transmitting. Audio only. It's requesting permission to approach the station." Zethka felt his breathing slow down. This was the moment that would define his career. Maybe his life. "Put it through," he said. The speakers crackled to life. A human voice spoke in clear, unaccented Galactic Standard. "Consortium Station. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Defiant. We are requesting permission to dock for humanitarian supplies. Our crew needs medical attention and food. We can pay with standard credits." The voice was calm, professional. It sounded like any other routine docking request that Zethka heard every day, except this was anything but routine. He looked at his screens again. The ship called Defiant was still there. Still massive. Still impossible. "Captain Chen," Zethka said into his microphone. "This is Commander Zethka of Consortium Station 7. I need to see your ship's registration and clearance codes before I can approve any docking procedure." There was a pause. When Captain Chen spoke again, her voice had not changed. "Commander, our registration codes are not in your system. We are from the outer colonies. Our paperwork may take some time to process through your computers." Outer colonies. Zethka had never heard of any outer colonies. According to every map he had ever seen, human space ended at the Proxima border. There were no colonies beyond that. The galaxy was too dangerous. Too many unknown threats. The consortium had spent centuries mapping every safe system, every trade route, every habitable world. There was nothing out there. "Lieutenant, send an emergency signal to Consortium Command," he whispered to Vexna. Code red. Possible treaty violation. "Unknown vessel in system." Vexna nodded and began transmitting. The message would take 6 hours to reach Consortium Command, and 6 more hours for a response. 12 hours. Zethka was on his own until then. "Captain Chen," he said into the microphone, "I am going to need more information about your ship and your mission. The vessel you are commanding appears to exceed all known human construction capabilities. Can you explain this?" Another pause. This one longer. When Chen responded, there was something different in her voice. Not fear, not anger. Something else. Sadness, maybe. "Commander, I understand your confusion. The Defiant is not like other human ships. We found her drifting in deep space many years ago. We have spent a long time learning how to operate her systems. We are not here to cause trouble. We just need supplies, Founder." That made even less sense. Ships did not just drift in space waiting to be found, especially not ships like this. Zethka looked at his displays again. The energy readings were stable now. Whatever powered that massive vessel was running smoothly, too smoothly for something that had been drifting in space. "Sir," Vexna called out, "I'm detecting movement from the outer system. 3 consortium patrol ships are responding to our emergency signal. They will be here in 2 hours." Zethka nodded. Help was coming. But he had a feeling that 3 patrol ships would not be enough if this situation went wrong. He had seen the patrol ships many times. Each one carried a crew of 50 and enough firepower to disable a large freighter. Against the massive ship on his screens, they would be like insects attacking a predator. "Captain Chen, I have patrol ships incoming. I need you to maintain your current position and prepare for inspection. Do not approach this station until you have been cleared by consortium security." "Understood, Commander. We will wait for your inspection teams, but I want you to know that we are not the only ones out here. There are things in the deep dark that your patrol ships are not equipped to handle. We came here because we need to resupply before continuing our mission." Things in the deep dark. Zethka felt his scales tighten against his skin. The way Chen said those words carried weight. Fear. Not fear of the patrol ships or the consortium. Fear of something else. Something worse. "What kind of things, Captain?" The silence stretched for a full minute. When Chen spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "The kind that eat worlds, Commander. The kind that turn entire systems into empty space. We have been running from them for a very long time. And I think they may have followed us here." Zethka looked at his sensors again. The Defiant was still there. Still massive. Still impossible. But now it looked different to him. Not like a threat. Like a shield. Like something that had been built to fight monsters. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice was asking the question he did not want to think about. If humans had built ships like this to fight something in the deep dark, what exactly were they fighting? And why had the consortium never heard of it? The patrol ships would arrive in 2 hours. Zethka hoped that would be enough time to get some answers. He had a feeling that the next few hours would change everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. The patrol ships arrived exactly on schedule. Commander Zethka watched on his displays as the 3 vessels took up positions around the massive human ship. They looked tiny in comparison. The Defiant could have swallowed all 3 of them, and still had room for a dozen more. Captain Rothkar commanded the lead patrol ship. His voice came through the comm system with the confidence of someone who had handled hundreds of smugglers and treaty violators. "Unidentified vessel. This is Consortium Patrol Ship Vigilant. You are in violation of multiple galactic regulations. Prepare to be boarded." Captain Chen's response came immediately. "Patrol Ship Vigilant, this is Captain Chen of the UES Defiant. We welcome your inspection team. Please be advised that we will provide full cooperation. However, I must warn you that we are carrying some unusual technology that may not be familiar to your crews." Rothkar seemed surprised by the polite response. Most treaty violators tried to run or fight. They did not offer full cooperation. "Defiant, transmit your complete crew manifest and cargo inventory. We will be sending over an inspection team in 1 hour." "Understood, Vigilant. Transmitting now." The data package arrived at the station within seconds. Zethka opened the files and began reading. What he saw made his confusion even worse. The crew manifest listed 2,847 humans. All of them had names and identification numbers. But none of the ID numbers matched any known human colony database. The listed birthplaces were systems that did not exist on any consortium map. Places with names like New Terra, Haven's Rest, and Far Harbor. The cargo inventory was even more strange. It listed standard supplies like food and medical equipment, but it also contained items that made no sense. Quantum resonance shields, temporal anchor arrays, something called a reality stabilizer. The consortium had never heard of any of these technologies, sir, Lieutenant Vexna said. "I ran the crew names through every database we have, nothing. It's like these people never existed in any official records." Zethka stared at the data. Ghost people on a ghost ship with impossible technology, and yet they were sitting out there, real as anything he had ever seen. "Keep monitoring their ship. I want to know if they so much as change their heading by 1 degree. The inspection team launched from the Vigilant right on schedule. 6 consortium security officers in a small shuttle. They approached the Defiant carefully, following standard protocols for potentially hostile vessels. But as they got closer, something unexpected happened. "Station, this is Inspection Shuttle 2, came the voice of Chief Inspector Grixtal. "The human ship is guiding us to a docking bay." "But sir, this bay is massive. It could hold 20 shuttles our size. And the technology I'm seeing, it's like nothing in our training manuals." Zethka leaned forward. "Explain, Inspector." "The docking bay has some kind of energy field holding in the atmosphere. But there's no visible generator. No power source I can identify. And the walls, sir, They seem to be made of a material that our scanners can't analyze. It's like it's not entirely real. Not entirely real. Those words sent a chill through Zethka's body. Technology that scanner couldn't analyze was one thing. Technology that seemed to bend reality was something else entirely. Inspector, proceed with extreme caution. If anything seems dangerous, abort immediately. Understood, sir. We're docking now. There was a pause. Sir, a human delegation is waiting for us. 3 officers in what look like military uniforms. They're armed, but their weapons are holstered. Very professional appearance. The inspection took 2 hours. When the team finally returned to their shuttle, Chief Inspector Grixtel sounded like a different person. His voice carried a mixture of awe and confusion that Zethka had never heard before. Station, we need to talk. In person. What I saw on that ship, it changes everything we know about human capabilities. Maybe everything we know about technology itself. When the inspection team returned to the station, Grixtal went straight to Zethka's office. The chief inspector was a veteran of 40 years in consortium security. He had seen smugglers, pirates, and black market dealers. He had boarded ships carrying illegal weapons and forbidden technology, but he had never looked shaken like this. Commander, that ship should not exist, Grixtal said. The humans showed us everything. Their engine room, their weapon systems, their living quarters. But none of it makes sense according to known physics. What do you mean? Zethka asked. Their power source is something they call a quantum void reactor. It draws energy from empty space itself. Our engineers say that's impossible. You cannot create energy from nothing. But their reactor is producing enough power to supply a small planet. Grixtal pulled out his datapad and showed Zethka the readings. Their shields work by shifting the ship partially out of normal space. When something hits the shields, it passes through the ship like it's not there. Then the ship shifts back to normal space. Our weapons cannot hurt something that exists in multiple dimensions at once. And their weapons? Zethka asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. They have something called reality anchors. Weapons that can lock a target in normal space, preventing any kind of escape. And their main guns? Commander, they fire concentrated gravity. They can create miniature black holes and launch them at enemy ships. Zethka sat down heavily in his chair. Black holes as weapons, shields that worked by shifting between dimensions, power sources that violated the laws of physics. If all of this was true, then the human ship could destroy the entire consortium fleet without taking any damage. Did they threaten you? He asked. No, sir. That's the strange part. They were completely cooperative. They answered every question. They even gave us detailed technical specifications for some of their systems. But when I asked how they built such technology, they said they didn't build it. They found it. Found it where? That's what I asked. Captain Chen said they discovered the ship in a dead system at the edge of the galaxy. It was damaged and abandoned. They spent years learning how to repair it and operate its systems. She said the original builders were gone, but they left behind manuals and training programs. Zethka felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. An abandoned ship with impossible technology. Humans who had learned to operate it. A mission that took them far beyond known space. And something dangerous enough that they needed weapons that could fire black holes. Inspector, did Captain Chen mention what they were running from? Grixtal nodded slowly. She called them the Devourers. She said they consume entire star systems and leave nothing behind. Not even empty space, just void. She said the Defiant was built specifically to fight them. Before Zethka could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Lieutenant Vexna's voice came over the comm system, high and tight with panic. Commander, we have massive energy distortions appearing at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. They're not ships, sir. They're something else entirely. Zethka ran to the command center with Grixtal close behind. On the main display, he could see space itself twisting and bending near the outer planets. Reality looked like it was being torn apart. And through the tears, something was coming through. Captain Chen's voice came over the comm system. This time, there was no calm professionalism. Just grim determination. Commander Zethka, they followed us. The Devourers are here. I'm sorry we brought this to your system, but we can help you fight them. That's what we were built for. The things coming through the tears in space did not look like ships. They looked like shadows with teeth, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light itself. Commander Zethka watched his sensors struggle to make sense of what they were detecting. The readings kept changing as if the entities were only partly real. How many are there? He asked Lieutenant Vexna. I can't get a solid count, sir. The scanner keeps showing different numbers. Sometimes 5, sometimes 20. It's like they exist in several places at once. Her voice was shaking. Sir, one of them just passed through the outer moon. The moon is gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Like it never existed. Zethka felt cold spreading through his chest. An entire moon erased from existence. The consortium had weapons that could destroy planets, but nothing that could make them vanish completely. What's the status of our patrol ships? Captain Rothkar's voice came over the comm. Station, we're moving to intercept. All ships, weapons hot. Target the largest entity and fire on my mark. Negative. Captain Chen's voice cut through the channel. Do not engage. Your weapons will not work against them. You'll only make them notice you. All consortium ships pull back to the station immediately. Rothkar's response was sharp. I don't take orders from treaty violators, human. We have our duty. Captain Rothkar, Zethka interrupted. Stand down. Let's see what the humans can do. The Defiant began moving. Despite its massive size, it accelerated smoothly and silently toward the approaching shadows. As it moved, its hull began to glow with a strange blue light. The energy readings from the ship spiked to levels that should have been impossible to contain. Commander Zethka, came Chen's voice. We're going to demonstrate why the Defiant was built. Please keep your ships clear. Our weapons have a wide area of effect. The first shadow entity reached the outer edge of the system. It was heading directly for the inhabited planet of Kepler 442b, home to 3 million consortium citizens. As it moved, space around it began to twist and bend. Stars in the background flickered and went out. The Defiant fired. The weapon was unlike anything Zethka had ever seen. It wasn't a beam or a projectile. It was a ripple in space itself. Reality folded around the shadow entity like a closing fist. The creature writhed and twisted, trying to escape back into whatever dimension it had come from. But the ripple held it in place, forcing it to exist fully in normal space. Then the Defiant fired its main guns. Chief Inspector Grixtal had been right. The weapons fired gravity itself, compressed into dense spheres of crushing force. When they hit the trapped entity, it simply collapsed, folded in on itself until it was nothing more than a point of intense gravity. Then that point vanished with a flash of radiation. Target neutralized, Chen reported calmly, moving to engage the next entity. The battle continued for 2 hours. The Defiant moved through the system like a predator hunting prey. Its reality anchors locked each shadow entity in normal space, making them vulnerable to conventional physics. Then its gravity weapons crushed them out of existence. The consortium patrol ships could only watch. Their most powerful weapons had no effect on the entities. Plasma bolts passed right through them. Missile impacts did nothing. The shadows existed in too many dimensions at once for normal weapons to hurt them. When the last entity was destroyed, the Defiant returned to its position near the station. The massive ship settled into a gentle orbit, its hull still glowing with residual energy. Captain Chen's voice came over the comm system. All entities neutralized. The immediate threat is over. Commander Zethka, we need to talk. There are things you need to understand about what just happened. An hour later, Captain Chen materialized in the station's main conference room. Not walked in, materialized. One moment the room was empty. The next, a tall human woman in a dark blue uniform was standing at the conference table. Apologies for the dramatic entrance, she said calmly. Our transporters work differently than yours. They move people through folded space rather than disassembling and reassembling them. Zethka stared at her. Captain Chen looked completely normal. Average height for a human with short dark hair and intelligent brown eyes. She could have been any of the thousands of human traders who passed through consortium space every year, except for the technology that had just saved his system. Captain, I need answers, he said. What were those things? How did you know they were coming? And how did you get technology that can fight them? Chen sat down across from him. The entities you saw are called Devourers. They exist primarily in what we call null space, the empty dimension between realities. They feed on organized matter and energy. When they finish with a star system, nothing remains. Not even empty space, just void. How do you know this? Because we've been fighting them for 15 years. Ever since we found the Defiant floating in the Void Walker system at the edge of the galaxy. The ship was damaged and empty, but its computer banks were intact. They contained the history of its builders. Chen touched the table and a holographic display appeared above it. The image showed a star map of the galaxy, but it looked wrong. Whole sections were missing, empty regions where stars should have been. This is what the galaxy looked like 50,000 years ago, she said. The builders called themselves the architects. They had technology that made ours look like stone tools, but even they couldn't stop the devourers forever. What happened to them? They realized they were losing the war. So they built ships like the Defiant, guardian vessels designed to fight the devourers. Then they programmed those ships to wait, to find new species who could continue the fight. The hologram changed, showing a massive ship floating in empty space. It looked like the Defiant, but older, more worn. We found 12 humans who had been exploring beyond the treaty boundaries. Volunteers who wanted to see what was out there. The ship's computer tested us for compatibility. Tested you how? It needed to know if we would keep fighting even when the situation looked hopeless. Humans have a reputation for stubborn determination. We don't give up, even when giving up would be the logical choice. The computer decided we were suitable guardians. Chen stood and walked to the window overlooking space. We spent 3 years learning to operate the ship's systems. The computer taught us everything. How to use the reality anchors, how to fire compressed gravity, how to move between dimensions, and most importantly, how to find the devourers before they could spread. And you've been hunting them ever since. We've been protecting the galaxy. Sometimes that means hunting them. Sometimes it means running until we can find a better position to fight. They followed us here because we destroyed one of their breeding stations last month. Zethka felt the pieces of the puzzle clicking together. The outer colonies you mentioned. They're not colonies at all, no. They're other guardian ships, other groups of humans who found architect vessels and accepted the mission. We stay in contact when we can, but we're usually too busy to meet in person. How many ships? 47 that we know of. Each one crewed by volunteers who chose exile from human space to protect the galaxy. We're not supposed to exist according to the Treaty of Proxima, but sometimes protecting people means breaking rules. Zethka looked at the human captain with new understanding. She and her crew had given up everything to fight monsters that most people didn't even know existed. They had become guardians of a galaxy that would never thank them because it would never know what they had done. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Supplies, medical equipment, food for our crew, and silence. The consortium cannot know about the Guardian program. If they tried to control us or shut us down, the galaxy would be defenseless against the next devourer incursion." Chen turned back to face him. "In exchange, we'll keep doing what we've been doing, fighting the monsters in the dark so that people like you can sleep peacefully at night." The alarm started 3 hours after Captain Chen's meeting with Commander Zethka. This time, the sensor readings were even more disturbing than before. The entities coming through the dimensional tiers were larger, more organized, and there were many more of them. "Commander," Lieutenant Vexna called out, "I'm reading massive distortions throughout the outer system. The entities are appearing in coordinated patterns. This isn't a random attack, it's a planned assault." Zethka studied the tactical display. The shadow entities were emerging from null space at specific points around the system. They were forming what looked like a siege formation, cutting off all escape routes from the inhabited planets. "How many?" "At least 30, maybe more. The scanners can't get accurate readings because they keep shifting between dimensions." Vexna's voice was tight with fear. "Sir, 3 of them are heading directly for Kepler 442b. The planet has 3 million people." Captain Chen's voice came over the comm system. "Commander Zethka, we have a problem. This is a harvester fleet. They're not just hunting us anymore. They're here to feed. We need to evacuate the inhabited worlds immediately." "How long do we have?" Zethka asked. "Once they reach the planets, maybe 6 hours. After that, there won't be any planets left to evacuate." 6 hours to evacuate 3 million people. It was impossible. The consortium had evacuation procedures, but they were designed for natural disasters or pirate attacks. Nothing like this. "What about your ship? Can the Defiant stop them?" "Not alone. There are too many of them, and they're larger than the scouts we fought before. We need help." Chen paused. "I'm calling in the other Guardian ships, but it will take time for them to get here." "How much time?" 8 hours. Maybe 10 if they push their engines. Zethka felt despair settling in his chest. The entities would reach the planets in 6 hours. The Guardian reinforcements would arrive in 8. The mathematics of the situation were clear. Millions of people were going to die. "What about the consortium fleet?" he asked. "There are battle groups within range, if we can bring them here." "Your weapons won't work against them," Chen said. We saw that with the patrol ships. The entities exist in multiple dimensions. Conventional weapons pass right through them. Then what can we do? There was a long pause. When Chen spoke again, her voice carried a note of reluctant hope. There might be a way, but it would require complete cooperation between your forces and mine, and it would mean breaking every treaty and protocol the consortium has. Explain. The Defiant carries modular reality anchor systems. We can install them on your ships, giving them the ability to lock the entities in normal space. But the process requires direct interface with human technology. Your crews would have to work alongside humans using equipment that officially doesn't exist. Zethka understood the implications. Installing alien technology on consortium vessels was a violation of at least 12 different regulations. Working with unauthorized human military forces would end his career. But 3 million lives hung in the balance. Do it, he said. The next 4 hours were controlled chaos. Transport shuttles moved constantly between the Defiant and the 3 consortium patrol ships. Human technicians worked alongside consortium engineers, installing reality anchor arrays that looked like nothing either side had seen before. Captain Rothkar supervised the installation on his ship with obvious reluctance. I want it on record that I object to this entire operation, he told Zethka over a private channel. Working with unauthorized human forces, installing unknown technology, engaging in combat without proper authorization. Noted, Zethka replied. Your objections will be included in my report, along with the fact that your cooperation saved 3 million lives. If we survive long enough to file reports, Rothkar muttered. 2 hours before the entities reached the planets, the installations were complete. The 3 patrol ships looked different now. Angular projections extended from their hulls, humming with energy that made the hair on everyone's arms stand up. The reality anchors were active. All ships, this is Captain Chen, we're going to test the anchor systems now. Patrol ships, target the nearest entity and activate your anchors on my mark. The test target was one of the smaller entities at the edge of the formation. As the reality anchors activated, space around the shadow creature rippled and twisted. The entity suddenly became solid, locked into normal space-time. Target locked, Rothkar reported. The entity is fully materialized. I'm reading solid mass and conventional energy patterns. Consortium ships, you are clear to engage with conventional weapons, Chen announced. The target is vulnerable to normal attack. The 3 patrol ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts and missile strikes that had passed harmlessly through the entities before now struck, with devastating effect. The locked entity writhed and twisted, trying to escape back into null space, but the reality anchors held it in place. When the bombardment ended, the entity was gone, destroyed by conventional weapons that had been useless against it just hours before. System works, Chen said with satisfaction. Now we need to coordinate our attack. The entities will adapt once they realize what we're doing. We'll only get one chance at this. The battle plan was complex but simple. The Defiant would use its gravity weapons to engage the largest entities directly. The 3 patrol ships would use their reality anchors to lock smaller entities in normal space, then destroy them with conventional weapons. They had to work fast and coordinate perfectly. All ships, this is the Defiant. Beginning attack run. Stay close and watch for my targeting solutions. The combined fleet moved into the outer system where the entities were gathering. The Defiant led the way, its massive hull glowing with contained energy. The patrol ships followed in tight formation, their reality anchors charged and ready. The entities noticed them coming. The shadow creatures began moving faster, changing their formation to meet the threat. Some of them started shifting more rapidly between dimensions, trying to make themselves harder to target. Contact in 30 seconds, Chen announced. Remember, we have to protect the planets. If even one entity gets through, millions of people die. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space. The Defiant's reality anchors locked 3 large entities in normal space. Then its gravity weapons crushed them out of existence. The patrol ships targeted smaller entities, anchoring them and destroying them with focused plasma fire. But there were too many entities, and they were learning. Some of them began targeting the reality anchor arrays on the patrol ships. Others started moving in patterns that made them harder to lock onto. Vigilant is taking heavy damage, Rothkar reported. Reality anchor array is at 60% efficiency. Hang in there, Chen replied. Guardian reinforcements are 2 hours out. We just have to hold until they arrive. 2 hours felt like an eternity. The small fleet fought desperately against overwhelming odds, buying time with blood and determination. They lost ground slowly but steadily. The entities pushed closer to the inhabited planets with each passing minute. Then, just when the situation looked hopeless, new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. Ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, not one or two but dozens, all of them massive, all of them showing the same impossible energy signatures as the Defiant. "This is Captain Martinez of the Guardian ship Indomitable. We're here to help. All Guardian ships form up and engage. Let's finish this." What followed was not so much a battle as an execution. 47 Guardian ships moved through the system like a coordinated pack of predators. Their reality anchors locked entire groups of entities in normal space. Their gravity weapons crushed the trapped creatures out of existence. The entities tried to retreat back into null space, but there was nowhere to run. The Guardian ships had surrounded them completely. Within an hour, every last shadow creature had been destroyed. When the battle was over, the Guardian fleet gathered near the consortium station. 47 massive ships hanging in space like a protective wall around the inhabited worlds. It was the most impressive display of military power Zethka had ever seen. "Commander Zethka," Captain Chen said over the comm, "the immediate threat is over. But there will be more. There are always more. This is what we do. This is why we exist." Zethka looked at the Guardian fleet and felt something he had never experienced before. He was looking at humanity's true strength. Not their technology or their weapons, but their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others, even when those others would never know what had been done for them. The Guardian fleet remained in the Kepler 442 system for 3 days. During that time, Commander Zethka learned things about humanity that changed his understanding of the galaxy forever. The 47 ships were not just vessels. They were arcs. Each one carried the last remnants of human colonies that had chosen exile over safety. Captain Chen invited Zethka aboard the Defiant for a final meeting before the fleet departed. This time she led him through the ship's living quarters. What he saw there surprised him more than any technology demonstration. "This is Deck 7, Chen said as they walked through a corridor lined with viewing ports. "Family quarters. We have children aboard the Defiant, Commander. 347 of them. They've never seen Earth, never lived in normal space. For them, the ship is their entire world." Through the viewing ports, Zethka could see classrooms where human children learned mathematics and literature, alongside courses on quantum mechanics and dimensional theory. Playgrounds where young humans played games involving gravity manipulation and reality folding. It was normal life adapted to an impossible situation. "They know what their parents do," Chen continued. "They understand that we fight monsters so that other people can live in peace. Some of them will choose to continue the mission when they grow up. Others will choose to leave and try to build normal lives. We give them that choice." "How do you live like this?" Zethka asked. "Never staying in one place. Always fighting, always running." Chen stopped walking and looked out at the stars through a large observation window. "Because somebody has to. The architects built these ships for a reason. They knew the Devourers would return eventually. They needed guardians who would never give up, never stop fighting, never surrender even when the situation looked hopeless. And they chose humans for this. They chose us because we're too stubborn to quit. Other species are smarter than us, more logical, more efficient. But when things look impossible, most species have the good sense to give up. Humans don't. We keep fighting even when we know we're going to lose." Chen turned to face him. The architect ships tested dozens of species over the centuries. Most of them failed the compatibility tests. A few passed but chose not to accept the mission. Humans were the only ones who not only passed the tests but volunteered for the job. What exactly did the tests measure? Willingness to sacrifice for strangers, ability to function under impossible stress, determination to continue fighting when victory seemed impossible. The ships needed crews who would protect the galaxy even if the galaxy never thanked them for it. They walked in silence for several minutes, passing through sections of the ship that seemed to bend the laws of physics, gardens where plants grew in impossible spirals, workshops where humans crafted tools from crystallized spacetime, libraries containing the collected knowledge of civilizations that had been destroyed before the consortium was even founded. "There's something else you need to know," Chen said as they reached the ship's central core. "The Guardian program isn't just about fighting the Devourers. It's about preparing for what comes after. What do you mean? The Devourers aren't the only threat out there. They're just the first wave. According to the Architect records, there are things in the deep void that make the Devourers look like insects, ancient intelligences that view entire galaxies as food sources. Zethka felt cold spreading through his chest. How many threats are there? We don't know. The Architect's records are incomplete. They were destroyed before they could finish mapping all the dangers in the outer dark. But every Guardian ship carries part of their research. We're continuing their work while fighting their wars. Chen led him to a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. The walls were covered with star maps that showed the galaxy in incredible detail. But these maps included regions that were not on any consortium chart. Dark areas where no light existed. Void zones where reality itself seemed to break down. This is why the Treaty of Proxima exists, she said. The consortium leadership doesn't know about the Guardian program, but they know something is out there. The treaty was designed to keep human military development limited, so we couldn't threaten established powers. But it also gave us the perfect cover story. Cover story? Officially, humans are restricted to small ships and limited territory. Unofficially, human volunteers disappear beyond the border every year. The consortium thinks we're just explorers and colonists looking for new worlds. They don't know we're building an army. An army for what? For the day when hiding behind treaties and defensive lines won't be enough. The threats we face get stronger as we move deeper into the void. Eventually, we'll encounter something that can't be stopped by 47 ships. When that happens, we'll need the combined forces of every civilized species in the galaxy. Chen walked to the center of the chamber, where a holographic display showed the entire galaxy. As Zethka watched, the display began to change. It showed the galaxy as it was now, then projected forward in time. Slowly, the dark areas began to expand, void zones growing larger, star systems going dark. According to the Architect projections, we have maybe 1,000 years before the next major incursion, something they called the Deep Hunger, an intelligence that consumes entire galactic clusters. 1,000 years is a long time, Zethka said. Not long enough. We need to spend every day of those 1,000 years preparing, building ships, training crews, developing new weapons and defenses, and we need to do it without alerting the threats to what we're doing. Why are you telling me this? Chen turned to face him. Because we need allies. The Guardian program has been operating in secret for 15 years. But secrets can only be kept for so long. Eventually, the consortium will discover what we're doing. When that happens, we need people in positions of authority who understand why the program exists. You want me to help cover for you? I want you to help save the galaxy. The Guardian ships can hold the line against current threats, but we can't build the infrastructure we'll need for the Deep Hunger. That requires industrial capacity and resources that only established governments can provide. What exactly are you asking me to do? Nothing for now. Just remember what you've seen here. Remember that there are humans out there fighting battles that the consortium doesn't know about. When the time comes to choose between bureaucracy and survival, choose survival. The meeting ended with Chen handing Zethka a small device. Emergency communicator, she explained. If you ever detect unusual energy signatures or dimensional distortions, use this to contact us. We'll respond as quickly as we can. 6 hours later, the Guardian fleet departed. 47 massive ships vanishing into hyperspace one by one. Returning to their eternal patrol of the galaxy's dark edges, the Kepler 442 system returned to normal operations as if nothing had happened. Zethka filed his official report with Consortium Command. The document described the incident as a minor incursion by unknown entities, successfully repelled by Consortium patrol forces. There was no mention of the Guardian ships or their impossible technology. But in his personal log, he wrote the truth. The complete story of humanity's secret war against the darkness. A record that would be sealed for 50 years. Released only if consortium leadership needed to know about the threats that lurked beyond mapped space. As he finished writing, Zethka looked out at the stars and thought about the Guardian ship somewhere out there in the dark. Protecting the galaxy from threats it didn't know existed. Fighting battles it would never hear about. Carrying burdens that other species were too wise to accept. Humans had a reputation in the consortium for being stubborn and illogical, for refusing to give up even when defeat was certain, for choosing the hard path when easier options existed. Most species considered these to be character flaws, but Zethka had learned something that the rest of the galaxy did not know. Sometimes character flaws were exactly what the universe needed. Sometimes the illogical choice was the only one that led to survival. Sometimes refusing to give up was the difference between civilization and void. And somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, human ships continued their lonely vigil, guardians of a galaxy that would never thank them, protectors of worlds that would never know their names, warriors fighting a war that could never end, because that was what humans did. When the universe needed someone to stand guard against impossible odds, humans volunteered. When the choice was between safety and duty, humans chose duty. When the logical decision was to give up, humans kept fighting. It was, Zethka realized, exactly what the galaxy needed them to be.